Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm writing to Is Advaita profoundly different from Western views, non-dual and various religions? Um, Profoundly different? I don't know what profoundly means. But let me, yes and no. And just again, profoundly, a word I've heard very few times. I've heard it maybe once or twice, and I have an idea of what it might mean, but it's so loosely used that not sure. So, anyways, don't care to look it up. I'll just guess. Is Advaita Vedanta profoundly different from Western views? Western views. Is it talking about in terms of religious views or just Western views in general, like non-religious views as well? So, well, if you look at religion, then it's going to be following Bhakti Yoga. Now, it's going to be pure duality though, not non-duality. So, Vedanta. Yeah, so it's a Vedanta. So Advaita means non-dual. I believe. Because there is a Vedanta teaching, then there's Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta itself, my gosh, I feel like I'm saying that so wrong, it's terrible. Anyways, it's supposedly non-duality. Anyways, and also, is it profoundly different? To some degrees, it is, if I'm using the word correctly. That the fact that it is following Bhakti Yoga, which is a duality way of looking of well, let's say God realization, but I would say at least in terms of enlightenment to some degree. I mean, you probably, in terms of bhakti, especially Western religion way, is to, you could probably give yourself up to God and have essentially enlightenment, but not necessarily like self realization, but God realization in terms of duality. Anyways, let's go ahead and give this video a shot. I'm not sure profoundly.
Hello. Uh, my name is Irakli. I'm from Georgia. It's not a state, United States. It's a country located
Yes.
in the Middle Europe. Yeah, ex Soviet country. I came from here, from this lecturer, and my friend who translated Ashrava Gita to Georgia asked me that ask you this question. He cannot arrive here. I will read it.
Please do.
It seems that cognitions turn into one. Before cognition, there is observer and object, and after cognition, there is unity of subject and the object. Therefore, one can say, I became what I understand, or I understand because my essence and the essence of the particular object was the same. From this perspective, there is not much difference between Indian dissolve into infinity and Western I think, therefore I exist. The question, do you perceive Advaita as something opposite Western philosophy where I is super important, or for your Advaita includes the Western views? Is clear?
Right. It's a very profound question, actually. I'll answer the question first and then go back to what was said as an introduction. It's a very important insight. So does Advaita, is it something profoundly different from Western views? Western views means there have been strands in ancient Western thought, strands of idealism in a philosophical sense, in ancient Greek thought, Parmenides, and then the Plotinus school, which are very, very, very non-dualistic. See, this non-dualistic insight, it's there in every religion. It's there in every religion. It's of course there in Hinduism, but it's also there in Buddhism, it's there in Jainism, it's there in Sikhism, it's there in Islam, it's there in Christianity, every religion, Judaism. I've got a book on Jewish non-duality, based entirely on Jewish sources, scriptural sources. So it's an insight, it's there in every religion, and that attests to the truth of it. However, the claim that we have, the special claim that we have in Vedanta, is that, I'm quoting Vivekananda, it's that perhaps the ancient Hindu came to it first, and also it is central in Hinduism. It is one of the primary paths of spirituality. Hinduism is a vast spectrum, but in that one of the primary paths is this non-dual path. Whereas in almost every other tradition except Mahayana Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, in every other religion, in every other culture in the world, it was sort of marginalized, pushed to the the outliers. In Hinduism, it is central, and a full philosophy, methodology was developed over the centuries of justifying it rationally and providing a highway with clear steps and practices to attain to that insight. Not only that, for centuries and millennia, there have actually been a body of practitioners in Hinduism. Hundreds, if not thousands, of monks and lay people who have walked that path, and they are doing so in this day and age. So it's a well frequented broad highway, freeway in Hinduism. So that's it. And that's my answer to the question. But let's go back to the initial sentences which this gentleman has written from Georgia, far off Georgia, not this Georgia. I'll just say a few sentences pointing to perhaps the most direct way of showing this non-duality, which I'm taking from what he has written. It goes like this. Notice this world. Start with the world. Step 1. Step 2 is, notice it's not a world by itself. It's a world in your experience. It's a world isn't that first we noticed? That it's a world in my experience. It's not a tree out there. It's a tree which I am seeing. Right now, that tree, you can't see it, you can see this. This one, this bouquet of flowers, this vase and the flowers here, which you can all see. 2 sentences. Sentence 1, it's a vase with flowers. Sentence 2, I am seeing a vase with flowers. Which is more correct? I am seeing a vase with flowers. It's not a vase with flowers in isolation of any subject. The subject is experiencing the object. Now, sentence 3. The seeing of the flowers which I see are nothing apart from the seeing. What do I mean by that? Follow this carefully. If this step is clear, the next steps they're all very radical and stunning. This step should be clear. The flowers which you are seeing are nothing apart from your seeing. What do I mean by that? It's pretty simple and straightforward. Light is falling on the flowers and coming to your eyes. The flowers are not entering your eyes, thank God. If you have to call an ambulance. What happened? He saw a vase of flowers. Now practically blind. No. To the eyes, only light comes. Whether it's flowers or this shrine or the person next to you, whatever we see, the only thing that comes to the eyes is light. That's the only thing that the eyes are designed to accept from the world. By the time it comes to your experiences, you see, even after the light, the next moment, it's no longer light. In the retina, it's an image. The next fraction of a second, it's tiny bits of electrical activity racing along your optic nerves to some brain center. Where is a flower? Where is a tiny bit of electricity? A flower, a tiny bit of electricity in your brain. And then finally, it's an experience of seeing. In your mind, in yourself, you having an experience of seeing. There's no flower there at all.
This is something actually I've said towards the beginning of my, roughly towards the beginning of my reaction. It's the fact that it must manifest in your consciousness. I'm doing a lot of quotes here because I don't know if it's because like you were saying, where, and I was actually thinking this too, because I was trying to think how would I explain it to like a group of people, which is something I do. Again, my brain just constantly working all the time. I'm touching, right? It's like, am I experiencing the touch here or here? And if someone says, oh, you're experiencing the touch right here, it's like, okay, what if we cut off the nerve of sensation? You can still control your hand, but you can't feel it. And then if you touch, are you feeling it now? It's like, well, no, because the signal is not being sent through. So right here, right then and there, this touching going on right here means absolutely nothing. It has to reach the part of the brain for you to experience. And this is the reason why my belief of consciousness is all in our brains to a degree. Now, what I mean by this is that, I think even Advaita Vedanta says that we capture little bits of the one consciousness. Whereas I can go both ways in terms of that we have our own individual consciousness only, that no one else has, that not necessarily that no one else has, but that we own ourselves and no one else can touch. And also I could see maybe the one consciousness in the world. The only reason why being is because I only know and experience my own consciousness. I'm only ever aware of my own consciousness. I have no proof of anyone else's consciousness. I have no proof of the one consciousness, except for my own consciousness, which is the one consciousness of my own consciousness. So that's the reason why, at the moment, obviously, again, Sadhguru, Swami Sarvarpinanda here, and Swami Taratmananda, they all say that, and I say this too, is that don't believe in things. You must experience it. And that's the only experience I have. If all of a sudden I start touching everyone else's consciousness, if I'm able to, if I'm able to tap into your consciousness, that would be weird, and that would show proof of this one consciousness. But that would show proof of the one consciousness, and the fact that I'm able to tap into the one consciousness that everyone has a little grasp on. So not only am I aware of my own consciousness, but I'm also aware of everyone else's consciousness, or at least one person. So one person would be a bit of a stronger proof, but to do everyone, that would be that'd be 100% proof for me right there. It'll still be like I couldn't just like okay, proof already. It's like oh my gosh, this is really, really strong evidence. I really have to think this out. I really have to do experiments on it, because again, if your belief system is easily switched, then you have not really thought about your beliefs. This applies to even your morality and stuff. So I hope everyone that even if your belief system is proven wrong, that you sit there and think about it first before you just automatically switch. If you just switch like that means you have no thoughts about your own morality or your belief system. It means that you're willing to just follow anyone that can convince you slightly of whatever it may be. So
there is no world there at all. There is no light there at all. In your brain, is it shining? No. Otherwise, you'd be like light rays will be emanating from every ear and pore of the body. No. In your experience, there is no flower. There is no light. There are no bursts of electricity, no retinas, no images. In your experience, there is only the seeing of the flower. And that seeing of the flower is pervaded through and through, illumined by you, the one consciousness. There is nothing distinct from consciousness in any conscious experience. Fourth statement. Let me go through the statements. The conclusion is stunning. World, vase of flowers. Statement 1. Statement 2. No. It's a vase of flowers. I am seeing the vase of flowers. That's more accurate. Statement 3. The flowers are nothing apart from the seeing. And statement 4. The seeing is nothing apart from consciousness. That is Advaita. You have it there.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because he's just like, well, there you go. Simple enough. Problem solved. It's true, though. It is true that it is that simple, but it's so difficult to grasp and difficult to understand. And this is the reason why whenever I think of things, I try to think of ways how people can understand it, especially with the different mentalities that people have. So this is the reason why I have the multiple brains type thing, where I have my beliefs in terms of that we all have our individual consciousness that are not linked, and then I have my Advaita Vedanta brain, which says, okay, we're all one consciousness. There's no separation there. So I can understand both perspectives. Whenever he talks about the one consciousness, my brain says, well, I only experienced my own consciousness. And the Advaita Vedanta brain says, yeah, the one consciousness, I get it. So I have this duality of understanding, but there's also potentially other understandings there if it's strong enough. but usually not. It's just I have my own brain, and then depending on what I'm talking about, I have the brain for that. So I have a duality of understanding. Okay, well that's it. So I didn't realize there was a non-duality in a lot of the other religions in the world. I've always thought most, I won't say most, I say non-Indian philosophies and religion are duality. I mean, it makes sense. Again, you can't blame a person for thinking it's like, yeah, I can see why they understand duality. Clearly, they understand that this body is theirs, that it's them to a degree, to a lot of degrees actually, and the body's the ego a lot of the times because the ego wants to preserve itself, and the body's the ego, like the mind. Obviously, it's willing to sacrifice parts of itself to ensure that the rest, the whole, is alive. And but I'm curious. I am curious as to like the non-dualities of the other religion. I don't really want to dive deep into it because I don't really like the other religions. But I am curious about the non-duality portions of it. If there's a strong argument there, and I wonder why they don't teach that part. You know, my beliefs about religion, especially in the past, is a lot about control and empires in a lot of sense. Because in the Bibles, or in certain books, they say to produce, to make merry and make babies in a sense, so that the more of their population that they have, the more that they can defend. You know, more people to throw into the war, the meat grinder. And I believe that's the reason why, like, gay marriages or just gayness in general, I was going to say illegal. It was shunned upon because you can't. Well, one, it's kind of against nature to some degree, as in there's no furthering the lines of that person's lineages, and also with that in mind, there's no babies being had, so their population can grow, so that there's more people to defend the walls with, in a sense. So I see why in the past those things were illegal, at least in terms of the church. But anyways. So I'm thinking and looking at the title of the video. I think, therefore I am. I guess, I think Sadhguru talked about something like that. It's like, well, that's where to get it wrong. It says I think. It's like, no, it's not I think. But I probably you can kind of convert that saying to, I'm consciousness, therefore I am, in a sense. I don't know about that one either. Because if you look at it in terms of the Advaita Vedanta's point of view, a rock is conscious. So, but it just doesn't have the brain, doesn't have memory, doesn't have, memory or a brain to remember or do things with. So that's what makes us different from other forms of consciousness, that we have the ability to remember, we have the ability to do things, to think, to question. Animals have a brain too, but they're more animalistic in terms of their thinking, survival, purely survival. Whereas we have that animal instinct in us as well, but our brain has developed further to where we can think a little bit more than just animalistic nature. Oh, I am going off the rails here. So anyway, that's my reaction to the video. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, the sound down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.